Howdy. So today I wanted to discuss a non-controversial topic at all, which is the issue of the canon, specifically how the well how some of the early church fathers uh, dealt with the issue of the biblical canon of the canon of scripture. Um, and for the like 4 or 5 people that may be listening to this or watching this video, you may be wondering why I don't have like a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. And the answer to that is um, well, for some reason, my webcam doesn't work, so I'm gonna have to read what I had prepared here in my computer. So apologies for that. So it's not uncommon to hear that scripture cannot have more authority than the church, because it is a church that determines to councils through traditions which books should be included in the canon. And to a certain point, from a Lutheran perspective, I could agree with that, depending on what we mean by church and what we mean by tradition. As some of you might or might not know, Martin Chemnitz, in his examination of the Council of Trent, delineates several kinds of traditions, and well, the conception of the church is the community of believers, the ecclesia. Well, not only that, but the community of believers where is distributed properly the word and sacraments. So those traditions, the type of tradition 2, where authorship is recognized or is passed down, or which recognition is passed down, that we're fine accepting. And as we're going to see, the early church seems to operate not necessarily as a top-down approach, but rather as an bottom-up approach. What I mean by that is the texts that are more authoritative is those who are more used in the different churches. So those that have a broader reception, that are not as disputed, those that have a little less authority are those that are disputed, the antilegomena, but that are generally accepted. And then there are the apocryphal books that are generally rejected. So that basically are only or are mostly accepted by heretics because they're obviously fabrications that nobody takes them seriously. So just from that, we should see that there is not this great confusion in the early church about which books are part of scripture and which are not. Well, the canon of Eusebius and Origen, I put those together because they are they're practically the same. In the list of accepted books, Homo Legumena has the Masoretic canon, so the 39 books of the Old Testament. For the New Testament, the four Gospel, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, the Acts, the epistles of Paul, First John, First Peter, and Revelations. For the disputed books, we have Antilegomena. Basically, in the Old Testament, Maccabees, and in the New Testament, Second Peter, Second and Third John, James, Jude, the Acts of Paul, Shepherd of Hermas, the Apocalypse of Peter, the Epistle of Barnabas, the Didache, or the Didache, whatever, the Gospel of the Hebrews, and Revelation, who receives double listing. And the Apocryphal books, well, everything else. Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Peter, Acts of John, etc., etc. So, as you can see, it is not black and white. There is not like, okay, these are definitely canonical and these are definitely like trash. Rather, there is an approach in which some books are more authoritative than others. And also, Revelations receives a double listing, which is very interesting. Which, again, points out some nuance to all of these canon lists. We can also sort of infer what books Saint Irenaeus used. So for the Old Testament, probably the Septuagint. For the New Testament, for the universally accepted books, the four Gospels, Acts, the Epistle of Paul, including Hebrews, although obviously the the authorship of Hebrews is disputed. First Peter, and First John, the disputed but positively cited are Second Peter, Second and Third John, James, Jude, and Revelation. Then we have later of author, but very important for well, for the story, for the history of Christianity. The goat, Saint Athanasius of Alexandria. Um, this list is given in his letter 39 um, in the canonical books, and he is one of the first that uses this word. And this is before any councils, any of that. He already is using this term of canon. I forgot what the Greek word was, but it was it can be translated as canonical. So for the canonical books in the Old Testament is basically the Masoretic canon, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, First and Second Samuel, First and Second Kings, First and Second Chronicles, First and Second Esdras, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs, Job, the Prophets, were the 12 minor prophets were often counted as one single book. Then Isaiah, Jeremiah, Baruch, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel. For the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st Timothy, 1st James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd and 3rd John, Jude, and Revelations. For non-canonical books but recommended for reading is the Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiasticus, Judith, Tobit, the Didache, and the Shepherd of Hermas. So what we can conclude from all of this is that the canon was later recognized and not imposed or anything like that. The early church did not invent the canon arbitrarily, rather, it recognized which books were authoritative, inspired, and widespread based on how widespread were used. The consensus were developed over time. While some books were universally accepted, such as the four Gospels and Paul's letters, others like James, 2nd Peter, and Revelations sometimes depending of the author, were heavily debated before achieving broader acceptance. So while councils and church authority played a role in finalizing the canon, they were mostly confirming what had already been received and used in churches. So, so one thing as an aside, uh, many people like um, as you can see in the especially in the earlier list, James was an anti-legumena disputed text. Um, so you can see how the harsh words of Luther uh, to James had some justification. And let's remember that Luther is not precisely known by his subtlety. And one thing I wanted to emphasize is the way that the early church seem to operate in so far as scripture goes. um, does not um, it's not the same as the Catholics, as Protestants, as Orthodox. um, I mean, I think it's, but this is obviously a biased opinion. I think it's a little bit similar to Lutherans, because we do tend to at least recommend the Deuterocanon for reading. But nonetheless, they use this sort of hierarchy of books, of what is definitely inspired with maybe um, what is generally accepted, but there is some dispute, and what is total trash. So, based upon that, we can, for example, if two texts are have a seemingly contradiction, we can go to the generally accepted text and read the generally not accepted text in light of that accepted text. So we can have a less black and white approach to this question. Another thing is, many people jump, may especially Catholics and Orthodox, may be tempted to point out how that this list has have a lot of differences. That's true, but more important than that is striking how similar they are. As one paper that I read, that I'm going to try to link in the description, note, it is it's very surprising how um, what how they reach, there is some sense of continuity about what texts are authoritative. Um, Even so, they have some variations. But beyond that, and also if we compare these canons with other canons, um, like the scriptures accepted by Marcion or the Gibeonites. They tended to use an approach as listed by the paper that inspired this video actually, um, that I'm going to link. Um, they tended to see what books kind of harmonize better, especially with their beliefs, and kind of arm their scriptures around that. But the non-heretics um, created their list of books based on historicity first and acceptance within the church. And through that method is why they have so much similarity with each other. So, well, that's all what I wanted to say. I hope for the 4 or 5 of you who actually watched this video, I wasn't too boring with my stuttering and my horrible pronunciation, but it is what it is. So, bye. See you soon.